Welcome to another One Ogden. I'm John Miles. Candidates have already filed for the 2026 elections, and county conventions will be this month, where party delegates will decide some of the primary races. That includes House District 10, where there are two Republicans seeking nomination. One of those Republicans is Juliene Snyder, who's a mom and a local actor. I didn't interview her as any kind of endorsement. She reached out for an interview, and I agreed. But this interview is a look at a candidate who proudly calls herself normal, touts her experience as a mom, and sees how being a less traditional candidate might just make her more representative of your average citizen.
I am Juliene M. Snyder. I am running for Utah House District 10.
Are you originally from Ogden?
I have lived in 6 different states. I grew up in Illinois. I've spent about a decade in Utah. I've been in Ogden for 4.5 years.
Okay. I always ask people, did you hear scary things about Ogden, and did they seem true when you got here?
There was a little bit, but scary for Utah is very different than scary.
Yeah.
And so from what I've found, now maybe I live right on the border, right? I'm at 28th and Porter, so I'm east of Washington and north of about 27th, which is where people usually draw that scary line. So maybe I'm just right in the good spot. No, we haven't had any issues. The only thing we've had stolen is a kitten off of our front porch.
Oh, no.
And we got him back, so that's good.
Oh, okay. Stolen by a little girl or something?
No, somebody who wanted to go sell a kitten. But we got it back.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So what led you wanting to run for office?
It's a good question. It was not in the plan to do right now. I've not been preparing for it. I mean, I had a friend, I remember the other day, I had a friend and I who would joke in, I think, first grade, we'd fight over who was going to be the first female president.
Oh.
So there was a little bit of that, but it was never really my plan to actually run for office. I've been interested in politics, especially since, 2015, 2016, when that's around the time I was 20, 21, so just getting older and starting to pay attention anyway. But Trump came on the scene and shook everything up and made everybody evaluate everything. So I started.
And that got you into politics?
It got me more interested in it, yeah. Huh. And so, researching,
did it just make it seem
sides.
Like, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But did it make it seem like a more exciting thing?
In some ways more exciting, but also sparked more contention, right? There used to be the perception of we're dignified as politicians and we don't, slander anybody. We go on the floor, we get along, and we're kind to each other even if we disagree. Mm-hmm. And Trump came and the debates during even the Republican debates, they got hairy really fast. And it seems like it's escalated from there, where now conservative or Republican can feel like a bad word to some people, and then leftist, liberal, Democrat is bad words to another group of people.
Yeah.
I'd like that to go away.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I can.
Good. It looked like maybe you were pretty involved in the Ogden City Council race last year, at least to a degree. Was that were you working for a campaign, or did you just strongly support somebody? Not
officially. I did help a friend whose husband ran, and I helped, send out flyers and contact people, just let them know about events and things like that. And I did knock some doors for my district's race in the general. I went out 2 or 3 Saturdays, knocked some doors, put out some flyers. And then I tend to, even if I'm not actively involved outwardly, think a lot about things, and I like to write, and that's how I do some processing. So I did write a couple letters. One of them was published in the Standard Examiner, just if I have questions and want them answered and think they're questions that everybody has but that I'm not hearing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of why I felt like I should put it out publicly and not just send it as an email.
Huh, okay. Yeah, I like that. I noticed that you, before you published that letter to the editor, you even kind of went into like what I saw as kind of a left-leaning Facebook group and kind of put it there and like got some feedback and stuff.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, I thought, fairly open, right? It's a public square, and so one would hope all are welcome. But it does tend a little more liberal or one party, and so it was a little nerve-wracking to put it up. And I remember thinking about it, and I think I even messaged the admin to see if I could post it in there, or that may have been earlier, posting, just other Republican things, just checking like, hey, is this going to be welcome?
Right.
And they said it was, so I figured, I'll take a busy comment section for a day or two, and then people will probably relax and it'll pass.
Yeah, but that struck me as, like you're out there trying to put that voice not just in echo chambers or whatever, but to have that conversation with all kinds of people.
Yeah, echo chambers don't help. And that's a lot of where, if I have concerns coming up, it is due to echo chambers, where I worry if I see somebody, if all they're surrounding themselves with is, you're amazing, you're the best, keep doing it, you lose connection to reality and you just keep sprinting in the direction you're being told, even if it's not where you initially imagined yourself going.
Yeah.
And it can be the same the other way. You can either get scared and you can stop moving and not know where to turn, not know where to walk, or you just feel the need to defend yourself and then lash out everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I saw you even mention, I think it was in one of your videos, that your district is pretty heavily unaffiliated, right? So it seems like bridging that gap is important to you.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people who are unaffiliated, either maybe they just aren't interested in politics, they registered to vote just so they can have a voice, but they don't really care party politics one way or the other. Or maybe you do like the issues of a party, but you're unhappy with messaging. You don't like the way the candidates are speaking about it. And you don't want to be affiliated with that. Kind of like I was saying earlier, where the party names now are kind of dirty words and you whisper or you hide your position. So I think there's a lot of people in the unaffiliated group who don't feel represented, and it is a huge portion of District 10. And so I would like to be the person who can represent them.
Yeah. I think I even heard you say that you were unaffiliated at one point and decided to move. In fact, it was the exact same thing when I was in college. I gave a speech about you got to vote for a third-party candidate because they need the popular vote so they can be in the debates. I heard you say all that.
That's exactly what I did. In 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson. And a lot of that was just to get more options, because a lot of times politics eventually comes down to a binary choice. It's a yes or a no, it's a red or a blue, and you do eventually have to pick one. But until then, the more options we have, the better the outcome can be, I think.
Yeah. But so, like I was wondering, like, are you very familiar with campaigns? It seems like maybe you've been involved in the party a little bit.
When my husband describes me to people, or they ask about hobbies or what does your wife like to do, he says I'm very into politics. And saying this now as a candidate kind of trashes everything I used to respond to, but I'd say I'm probably at about like 80th percentile. Compared to most people, I'm very into politics.
I see.
But compared to those who are into politics, I'm on the lower end. So, I mean, I have been a precinct chair for the last 2 years for the Republican Party. So I do hold that local position there, which in a lot of times just comes down to 3-4 meetings a year and passing out some flyers every once in a while. Really, the biggest amount of work is when caucus comes up. So the past couple weeks, I've been campaigning and also prepping for caucus. And that's really where the heavy lift of that comes in.
Because you've got to try to go to a bunch of caucuses, right? Or do you just go to yours?
I just go to my caucus. I am our school's like point person. So we have 8 or so precincts meeting there.
Right. Precinct chair has to run it. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So I'll be there as kind of a point person and kind of leading my precinct. And then I'll go to convention where all the delegates meet, which may be what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And I just have county convention. I don't have to go to state or, to multiple counties.
Right. But I thought you'd go to caucuses to try to, whip the votes for convention.
One can. A lot of that work comes, I think, after the delegates are picked. And there are some people who will go around before caucus and try and, hey, you like me, you should run for delegate.
Right.
Because that's a guaranteed vote. Or at least with our party rules, if I wanted to, I could be a delegate. And then I could vote for myself.
Yeah.
And help, get myself some support. So it's something I'm allowed to do. I really would like to let the precincts organically do that.
Yeah.
And I'll try and convince the people who are picked and who are interested to vote for me then.
Yeah. I was kind of curious about that because people will talk like, I don't know, if you go the signature route, convention plus signature, that you'll get like blacklisted and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. You chose to go just convention,
just
right?
Convention, yeah.
And was that because of some blacklist or because it just,
So it is definitely unpopular. Signature gathering is definitely unpopular within the Republican Party. We are big R Republican and also little R Republican. So we like the system where you go, you choose a delegate and they vote, instead of where if I went the signature path, I could just attempt to get 4,000, 5,000 Republicans in the district to vote for me and make me our party's nominee. So there is a lot of drama about, I think the process started with SB 54. I think it was in 2018, but I could be wrong about that year. When the state passed laws opening up the signature path where you didn't have to go through convention. It can be heated. I think that, again, is one of those other, are you in the top 20% of people caring about politics? Because if so, a lot of Republicans want to get rid of the signature path. And with the Prop 4 initiative that's been going on, the repeal Prop 4, a lot of people have been talking about the signature gathering, and that is separate from candidate signature gathering, but we've seen where the imperfections can come in, where people can sign but they're not actually voters, or people are signing multiple times. What are people saying? If I'm as a candidate going out knocking doors saying, hey, will you sign this so I can run? Is the person vouching for me actually informed, or are they just sure what's the harm?
So it's kind of about trusting the delegates who are kind of put in place to do it. I asked why you decided to run, or did I?
I think so.
Well,
a little bit.
Yeah, I guess what made you decide it was the time
why
right now? Yeah.
So Jill Coford holds the seat right now, and it was not my intent to primary her. I don't think anybody was thinking of primarying her. So when she decided to run for the Senate, Ann Milner is not running again. So it was an open seat, and Jill Coford went to run over there. And I remember talking to my husband, I was like, oh no, somebody has to run for this spot. I really want choice for the voters and choice for the delegates. And I reached out to Jill and a couple of people in the party, and I was like, hey, I am willing. I don't know if I'm ready. I have 3 younger kids. They're 10, 6, and 3. So it's a big commitment. I mean, if I get in, I'll have to get a nanny for each of the sessions, at least, if not more. And that's not a normal part of our life. But I'll essentially be in Salt Lake for 45 days straight.
Right.
So, and I was enjoying being mom and just taking care of mom stuff, and had finally kind of gotten my house in order, and that's completely devolved since then. But there was a space and no one else seemed to be stepping up. I do not come from a background that's typical of politicians. I haven't been preparing for this and planning for this. I've still got the young kids. My house is down in the middle of Ogden. It's not up on the bench that's, I got back in 2012 before prices flew through the roof, and not retired, don't have a ton of money or anything like that, which I think is how we perceive our politicians. And so we leave a lot of stuff to them. They know better, or they can even give it headspace, right? If it's not something in day-to-day life, do I even have the energy to worry about it? Which is why, people don't go to city council meetings until it's time for tax raise. And then you go in because it matters right then. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted people to have the opportunity to vote for a person they felt was like them. And so somebody has to step up for that chance to even be there.
Do you have a pitch for why you over your Republican opponent?
I have been working really, really hard. I don't have a very clear pitch in terms of this is where I stand on the issues. This is where my opponent stands on the issues. Because I haven't heard much from him. Right. He does now. I saw a video yesterday. He now has a video or two out on Instagram, and he's got a Facebook page now. But those are new within the past couple weeks. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been much put out from him. Back during filing, Jill and I talked a little bit about what it took to run this campaign, because it's a big lift, and Rosemary's held the seat before, and a lot of people like her. She has done so much for the community. And so it's a big deal to, step into that place, and it takes so much time. And so Jill and I talked about that a little bit, and I really appreciated that. And I think everybody in the background was searching for other candidates. And so Jim Alvey was found, or he expressed interest, however that process went down. And he is in a more traditional, ready place to run. So I think that's where a lot of easy planned, okay, this can be our guy. Great. Let's all get behind him and just not have a fractured primary, not have a fight. We'll just all get behind and sprint and, be behind him. And I reached out to him just to confirm if he was filing, because I think it was the last day we could file, and I hadn't filed yet. I was waiting to see if somebody else was going to step up and was going to do it. And he confirmed he was filing. And I had people express to me, I hope you'll give him your support. You'll give him the chance to earn your support, was the message I got from a lot of people. And then I reached out to Jim, so he had my phone number. And what went through my head was, now he can get in touch with me. And he's asking us to put him in a position to go out and try to earn 9,000 votes. I'm the perfect first person for him to win over, because if I don't run, he's got a much easier path. And he didn't try. Between that and my 10-year-old who thinks he's interested in politics saying, Mom, I want you to run, and all of that, I just decided, I guess I'm still going to run, and I'll try this for a couple months, and hopefully I'll be successful, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. I wasn't convinced out of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. I don't like necessarily saying, this person just seems traditionally ready, like you said. Like it goes back to being that other kind of voice that maybe doesn't get in that seat a lot.
Right, yeah. And I think that's one of the worst things you can do to a group of Republicans is set somebody and say, here's your person. Let's do it. That's the right person. Mm-hmm. Not that anybody likes being told what to do, but I think especially in the Republican Party, we like to kind of bicker, and we don't like being told what to do. Mm-hmm. So
you're the maverick.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. And so, what do you hope to focus on as a legislator?
I guess would be more cultural rather than issues. I know there's a lot of people, like Kevin Lundell in the Ogden City race. He was really upset by the Aspen home decision. And he says that's what spurred him into running for office. And you see that a lot. People come out and they explain, this happened and I was so unhappy and I'm going to fix it. Mm-hmm. I don't have a plan to fix Utah, which is another not politician prepared answer, but I don't think it's my role to attempt to fix Utah. What I want to do is go in and show people what they have the power to do in their own lives. And whether that's somebody who's interested in politics and I inspire somebody to run, or I inspire them to show up to city council, I inspire an opening of a Facebook group or whatever that allows people to do debates on the local level. Or if it's something just smaller of people realizing, she's a mess and she's still working hard, and we can see the mess and we see the heart, and we have a politician who is a human. And of course, all politicians are people. Be nice to your politicians. Don't be mean. They really are all people, even if they seem like they have their life together. But I mean, there are things I care about. My biggest policy or biggest issue, I really am passionate about education. And so I really like the school choice that Utah has. I like that there are so many charter schools that are funded through the public education system. I like that there's homeschooling, and I like that there's public schools and private schools. There are so many ways for you to find the right place for your child to have their best education. I think that's great. I want to keep that, and I want to encourage that.
I do want to just dig a little, because to me immediately, I think you're an arts person who values the arts. Mm-hmm. I've heard about like playgrounds have to be sort of community funded, or like PTA funded, or choirs, or even theater, like the plays, they're all sort of done by volunteers and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I just wonder if you think that it's worth investing more taxpayer money in that, or if you think it's better to, to let the community fund the stuff it cares about.
If we come down to the basic question of, is it government or is it private? In a lot of ways, I think the private system does things a lot better than what the government can do. And it's a cheesy line to rely on, but the DMV, nobody's happy with the DMV. It takes forever. It's such a mess. You go in and you try to explain your issue, and it's like the other person doesn't hear what you're saying. The DMV is terrible. And so I don't want everything to be like the DMV. Arts are so important. I also think Utah specifically is so pro-hobby, pro-community programs. Where I'm from in Illinois, I think there technically was one community theater, but I think they did a show twice a year or something like that, and it was really just, are you in the group already or not? It wasn't something where all 80 of us every year who were in the musical and graduated knew we were going to go into that community theater and still be able to pursue our interest. Right. I did competitive dance growing up, and I remember when I graduated from high school, came out to college, and you're meeting people, and what do you like to do? And I didn't have a good answer. I was like, well, for the past 11 years, I've spent 12 hours a week dancing, but I'm not going on to be a professional dancer. There's nowhere for me to just go dance. There weren't community events being put on, and I see a lot more of that here in Utah. There are like 6 community theaters within 20 minutes, and Union Station has like the line dancing, I think every week or every other week. They've got yoga here. We've got the Marshall White Center. And some of those things do have some government funding pulled into it. But there are a lot of people very artsy, very creative here in Utah. And so if you have an interest, it's easy to find a place to have that outlet. It does take money, and that's hard. And there's a lot of programs that I don't have my kids doing because I don't have the money for them to, $200 a month or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think though, there are so many generous people, and if their cup feels full, there's so many ways that they will naturally share what they have, whether their cup is full or just full enough. I mean, my husband's a plumber, and he fairly regularly goes through, the people in our community, and he just goes and fixes things or does it for, they'll pay for parts and he'll do the labor. And that happens fairly regularly, and we don't even have all that much spare time. But that's kind of a life goal. There's kind of like how there's Doctors Without Borders, there is a plumbing version of that. And that's his dream is, when we retire, we have enough, we raise our kids. He wants to just go around and bring water to people who don't have water. I think that's really common, especially here in Utah. And people will step up and will volunteer as they have the time and the space.
Well, will you tell me the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on X and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. JMS for Utah 10, and the numbers are the numbers. That's my email too, jms4utah10@gmail.com. I would love to talk to people. I have a phone number too, 385-240-0596. So you can call me or text me or email me. I feel like I'm fairly accessible. I've been working so hard, even though it wasn't the plan. I do want this, and I want to be successful. I want to be a part of this way that we shape our lives and shape the lives of those around us. On a theoretical level, it could be over on 8 p.m. on April 11th. I'm not ready to be done on April 11th. And so I have been putting in so much work now. I've met with the mayors of the 4 cities in my district, and I've reached out to the city council members, and I've been meeting with people, but I've also met with those elected delegates and with precinct leaders. I want to keep going, and it's scary to think that your fate, at least for the race, comes down to 50 people, especially because it's 50 people who haven't been chosen yet. How I get on the ticket is getting a majority of the delegates at convention, and they haven't even been picked until caucus night. And so I have 3 weeks of really getting ready with them. Once they're chosen, I reach out to everybody. I try and earn their vote. And so I could have just sat back and waited until March 18th and woken up and pulled up the list of delegates and started to work then. But I really wanted to be ready, and I wanted to show how I'm the right candidate, both from a Republican perspective, but also in the general. So I've been putting in the work, I've been recording videos, and I'm sure there's more that I could have done. I want to have a portfolio ready to present to the delegates when they're chosen. And so it's a little bit two-pronged of, I want our elected leaders to be less important in our daily lives, because that's true, but there's also, I want us to expect a lot out of them. I guess I do that in my own life. I think I have a lot of forgiveness that I have to give to myself to keep moving forward through life, but I find it depressing to just say, I'm just going to live however long I live and be done. It doesn't matter what I accomplish.
Yeah.
I like having a goal to chase, a thing to do.
Well, I personally like that it's not, I'm going to go try to put my thumb on the scales of the delegate election, but I'm just going to try to prepare a portfolio for, when it's time.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've had that advice come to me of, you should go out and find people in every precinct and encourage them to run. And I didn't decide to take that advice. And of course, if we just go down to party politics, I am a Republican. I'm happy as a Republican. I put a lot of thought into when I decided to affiliate, who to affiliate with. And so I would love that guarantee of, I'm a Republican, I'm going to vote for a Republican, because the chances are my voice will be better represented if I do that. But I'm not going into it saying, I'm a Republican, I'm going to listen to the people who are Republicans and ignore everybody else. And maybe that's wrong in the world of politics, but I want to make sure everybody feels heard and feels seen, because it's really hard when you show up to a political meeting and you make your voice heard and they do the opposite and they just brush it off. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that even if I don't do what you're telling me you want to happen, I would like to explain why. I really want to educate people on my worldview. I want to be very open about what's going on behind the scenes, why I am where I am. But also, I'm newer to the area, I'm newer to Utah, so I've got a lot to learn.
I know people think political parties are stupid, but they really are the only legitimate path to the ballot. So if you're not a delegate this year, consider it next cycle. And have a great week.